Welcome, friends of the show. Welcome. We are back with another episode of the Ferris Wheel Classic Rock Show. A big thanks for your emails, suggestions, and your support on our social media platforms. Continue to email us at theferriswheelshow@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Listen to a new show every week. Just tune in each Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. New York City time on Cap City Beats, located at www.capcitybeats.ca. Okay.
Yeah.
Buckle up for some serious rock talk. So, we are back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
It's wonderful to be here.
Gentlemen, how the hell are you?
Oh, I feel fantastic.
So, who do we have here? We have to the right of me a man that doesn't like to shower on a Saturday.
Or Sunday.
Stephen Wheeler.
And a man who decides that it's okay to have coffee with a cigarette every now and then.
Every hour.
Dr. Ian Clark.
Give me a ticket on an aeroplane. Ain't got time to take a...
He doesn't take a double-double. It takes a Philip Morris cup of coffee.
Philip Morris.
Every time I cough up a pomo.
So, Wheels, actually, this is your project today. What are we going on?
We're going with the most overrated and underrated people in rock.
Yeah, I'm down with that. So, without further
Well, this
ado,
is a free-for-all. We'll just pitch in. You lead.
You lead, we'll pitch.
I'll follow.
I'm throwing a steak and you guys are jumping on it.
Well, depends on what
Not really.
T-bone.
Oh, okay.
Lead vocals.
This is over or under?
We're going to start with the over, and we're then going to go under.
You mean underappreciative?
Underrated, yeah, or underappreciated.
Underappreciated. Okay.
So, overrated vocals.
Yeah.
My first one, and I'm going to tell my friend Kennedy here to probably hide under the table because there's going to be an explosion. I'm going to say, in terms of overrated lead vocals, Jim Morrison is up there.
Well, why are you looking at me?
No, not in that sense. And that's it.
What do I care?
Dr. Clark's head might explode.
Well, I'm okay with it because...
I'm going to explain, though.
I'll throw an anecdote in to explain it.
So I'm saying Jim was actually fine when he did his own thing, and he was a great fit for the Doors in studio. But in a live setting, he was just... I mean,
yeah, he wasn't balanced.
It wasn't balanced.
Yeah, he wasn't steady.
He is what the British call a wanker on stage.
He slept with a lot of women.
That's true, but
He
that's
wasn't
not
celibate.
He wasn't celibate. And if you look at some videos of Doors shows, he ruined quite a long list of them. Like mostly because he was blathering completely incoherently because he was drunk.
Way too many drugs. Way too many drugs.
And the attention-seeking behavior, was it in Miami, I think, that he exposed himself?
That was always the rumor. Even if he didn't, I finished John Densmore's autobiography a few months ago, and he said Densmore actually broke out in skin rashes and stuff because of the pressure of having Jim Morrison around. And he said years after Morrison died, he visited his grave in Père Lachaise in Paris. And as he walked toward the grave, his skin started to get itchy again. He said, what's going on with this guy? He's still terrifying me. Because he's so mentally imbalanced and so drugged up. But yeah, my anecdote here is when Frank Sinatra heard Light My Fire, he got really mad because he thought that Morrison was doing a Frank Sinatra.
Really?
Yeah, you know that it would be on this kind of big bottom of the well kind of voice. And he wasn't. He did have a good voice. I always thought he was better on ballads. Like he was stronger on ballads. But that's me.
My other one would be Axl Rose.
What's wrong with you, man?
No, we're not saying bad. We're saying overrated.
See, he's upset you.
I'm not saying
I'm just teasing.
I'm with you on Axl Rose.
Axl Rose is nasal. He's whiny. He's screechy. And let's face it, he has the personality of Donkey's back end.
He's a terrible man, but there you go. But the GNR just sells it all the time, so who knows, right?
All right,
yep.
Come on.
And my last one on the list of overrated lead vocals is Mick Jagger. And again, I'm going to explain. Mick Jagger is not a bad singer per se, He's overrated as a singer because he's more of a showman.
Yeah,
I
think so.
Some people say he's the greatest singer of all time. I don't agree.
No.
There's a lot of singers like him, and there were a lot better singers even in the 60s when his voice was actually better than it is now.
Yeah, I never thought he was a great singer.
So as a lead vocal, he's overrated. As a showman, he will never be overrated.
I always thought him as a consistent singer. He was always the same.
That's true,
Yeah,
actually.
it's
That's
true.
Same, same. Yeah. Okay.
What about you guys?
Overrated. I went with bands and artists, and I did a list, and if you want me to explain, I'll explain. Rush. That's the first one that comes to mind when I say overrated. Dr. Clark's smiling because he agrees with me.
Yeah.
Tragically Hip, overrated. Elvis Presley, overrated. Tom Petty, overrated. Jimi Hendrix, overrated. The Sex Pistols, definitely overrated.
That's true, yeah.
Cream, overrated. Queen, you millennials killed this for me. He is overrated. They are overrated
Who's
right
this?
now. Queen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they killed it for me. Okay.
That damn movie wiped it out.
Kiss, again, Ian, you're gonna agree with me. It's a business. They're overrated.
Yeah, I had that.
I put this one here for you, Ian. The Cars.
Shut up. Rick Ocasek. My
even,
best friend's girlfriend.
I even put Aerosmith on the list, guys, because let's just face it, in the 70s they were good for a little bit. Then Ian, you said they kind of sucked a little bit.
Yeah, they were uncool for quite a long. And they came back out of nowhere.
And I love Aerosmith. Don't get me wrong, I really do. But their later stuff is after Get a Grip. It's done.
I know.
Ian, I think you're going to be happy with this one here. Bob Seger.
Yeah, I don't know who's a great vocalist.
Another one I put was Elvis Costello. I just don't get it.
I never got it.
I don't think anybody around this table gets it.
I put Journey with Arnel Pineda, the new singer.
Okay. All right. He weaseled to that one the last moment.
Yes. I put Yes on there.
Who was the John Anderson? Yeah, I guess so.
I put Bruce Springsteen.
For who? Are you in over? Yeah, I had Springsteen too.
I put Cheap Trick.
Oh, they're not even worth mentioning. I want you to want me.
Billy Joel. I think after I heard that,
I don't know he's in key.
But that song, something about scenes of an Italian restaurant, or that song.
Oh yeah,
I don't like that song. Nope. And when classic vinyl plays it, I feel like I could tell Earl Bailey. I'm Earl Bailey, and I'm gonna play this long song. I guess is what's gonna happen. I put the Flaming Lips on there.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. The Police.
Roxanne. Yeah.
In French, it's Roxanne. I put the Scorpions on there.
Why?
I kind of felt like it.
Okay, because no one really knows them anymore.
I did put Fleetwood Mac, and the reason is that, listen, Stevie Nicks was probably a sex icon back in the day, Ian.
Oh, yeah.
And great voice. They had, to me, it's that one powerful album where there's not one bad song, which is Rumors.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I just had to put on there. I put U2 on the list because if I didn't put them on the list, people would be like, well, why did you put them on the list? Listen, I don't think they're overrated. I just put them on there because I felt this is what had to be done. And I even put Nirvana on there because it, bless my heart because I love Nirvana. But let's just face it, that's why I put as overrated. So I put 24.
That's interesting. So you think Nirvana
people, but I will put Rush. I will explain why I put Rush on the list and why I put the Tragically Hip. And my dog is going to agree with me on this one.
He sounds like he is.
Okay.
Has he been dewormed? No.
Canadian fans out there, please listen carefully. Take the Rush head out of your ass, literally.
But don't rush.
They are great musicians, but they are highly overrated. To me, their best album is Moving Pictures, and that's it. It turned 40 years this year, from 1981 to 2021, so that's it. Okay? Again, Tragically Hip, and I'm going to paraphrase Ian. Basically, you said, Ian, they died on stage or just died performing. This is why they see him like a...
it's just maudlin, I think. I
know,
think the whole
Gord
guy
Downie
thing was maudlin.
Was a good songwriter. He was a good promoter of Canada. Yes, you guys had your success north of the border. You didn't want to touch the States, whatever. As soon as you get open to the States, I'll take it. Because here's the reason why. And I'm going to tell you this right now before I let Ian go to his thing. Russian Tragically Hip, the only reason why they got so much fame in Canada is because it's legislated by the CRTC. They have to play Canadian music on radio. And this is why they got all the radio airwaves. This is just my opinion. Okay? In the States, if they were in the States, you'd have to earn it to get it. The States doesn't have a rule saying because you're American, I got to put you on the radio. Only Canada is the only one that has to do this, from my knowledge.
True.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
So to me, a lot of Canadian stuff out there is crap. It's not going to make it on. It's not going to make it onto the American
Well, it's
Airways.
government, man. Whenever the government gets involved in the arts, here we go. Right?
You know, yeah. So they got involved in the arts, and I see you guys could agree with me on this one because let's just face it, there's some Canadian stuff out there. It's just not that listenable, Ian. Am I right?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And we've in this podcast we've often mentioned Burton Cummings' quote. Again, I can't believe I'm quoting Burton Cummings, but basically all the Guess Who hits were made before the government mandated Canadian content.
Exactly.
They were. So,
and they're the ones that broke the barrier
Yeah,
for
they're the
Rush to
great- they're the
cross
great-
over.
yeah.
You know, it was Neil Young, the band, Stampeders, and the Guess Who.
yeah, and Neil Young played it safe. He went to Los Angeles. He got out of town to record, right?
Yeah.
So,
They are great bands. Rush and the Hip, they're great, but overrated.
yeah, I think we might get some
Blow
I
back?
don't know.
Good. Yeah,
We might
keep
get some hot emails, but I always thought the Trash Hit were a really kind of like Blue Rodeo, a great bar band. That's the way I think of them. And you have a few beer and you do a bit of dancing, like Great Big Sea or something. I'm not going to buy the album. I'm just here with a few buddies and drinking a few beer, and that's it. That's where it stops. I don't think of them as a Canadian icon to go on our currency. What people are talking
Like I
about
believe
now.
classic rock stations are playing Blue Rodeo right now.
Yeah, I'm a good bar band. What?
But why? They're not classic rock.
They're not really classic rock for me. They're just a hybrid.
All right, so what's your list, Dr.
Well, this is kind of off the top of my head due to some administrative problems, but overrated. No, we've touched on. I'll just touch on one that we did. I think Neil Young is overrated. I think Neil Young is one of these guys that he presents himself laissez-faire, don't really care what he looks like. They used to call him the garbage man look. But I think he's very smart and he's very strategic. And you can't really tell about his singing because he sings his own songs. But when he goes outside of his singing, that's when your spine tightens up, right? And you realize, creeping, Jesus, this guy really can't sing. I just think he's overrated. I think most of his songs are dreadful. Number 2, more hate mail. I think Bob Dylan is overrated. I think 90% junk, 10% genius. Sorry, you know what I mean? And it just is. And he went on this huge woman-hating binge in the mid-'60s. This misogynistic stuff like a Rolling Stone, which is a great song, but when you start reading the lyrics, it can make you uncomfortable. And make us my big... that I think Bruce Springsteen's overrated. I think Bruce Springsteen is a good performer, but I think he's not authentic. I think he's a sponge that gives people what they want so he can become more famous. So it might be a kind of faux Woody Guthrie, or it might be a faux Little Richard. He gives back. He's very smart. I think he just likes to be seen, almost like an exhibitionist or something. Jimi Hendrix, I think, is overrated in many ways. Not as an electric guitarist, but as a singer, as a songwriter.
Yeah.
I think people have romanticized him. He died so young in such a tragic way. Kiss, as everybody knows from these podcasts, I think is huge. I don't understand them. I think they're kind of a clown act with guitars, and I think Gene Simmons would probably admit it. It did it very good commercially, and that's what they do. Still do. They put on makeup, and they sing these mediocre songs, and the whole thing is kind of a clown act. It's a circus performance. I don't get it. I think U2, Bono, U2 is overrated. I think somehow The Edge. First of all, you don't give yourself a nickname, but The Edge did, and he found some really good guitar pedals, and they have an interesting sound because of that. You can't really play the guitar.
I kind of want to defend that a little bit. I had to put it on because I don't know. Everyone not hates them, but they always think they're overrated. Listen, these guys solidified themselves in the Rock Hall of Fame with the Joshua Tree. You're not even 11 years in your career and you're already in. Like, I mean, you didn't get in right away, but I'm just saying with that album alone. So I have to defend it. I don't have an issue with U2, but If I don't put him on the list, they're like, "Oh, Kennedy, come on, man, state the obvious." Well, I'm stating the obvious. Heck, I even put Nirvana on there because I had to state the obvious.
Yeah, I think they became famous. They became like the stadium band, right? Late '80s, like everyone was talking about them. I never got it. One or two nice songs. I don't know. I mean, I never understood it.
And they sell out.
Yeah.
They sell out. Underrated. Well, I think that I think Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac was always underrated. He has kind of this goofy, pretty boy image, and I don't know if he took himself too seriously or not seriously enough, but he's a great guitar player and a strong songwriter. Maybe overshadowed by Stevie Nicks and that whole thing. I don't know. I think Burton Cummings of the Guess Who is underrated as a singer and a songwriter. Again, because he didn't take himself seriously. He had kind of a goofy image, with this bandito mustache he always wore. The whole thing just didn't work out. I think Rod Stewart's underrated, mainly because he had a huge disco period in the 70s, early 80s, where he obviously just wanted money, and he sold out all that he did before with the Faces and his solo albums before that, and I thought it was disastrous. And after that, I don't think he's ever really recovered. You know what I mean? So I think if you look at his early catalog, you'll get back into Rod Stewart. We mentioned earlier Aerosmith. Aerosmith, yeah, how could I say this? It's hard to appraise them now because they've turned out so much junk over the years. But in their prime, with their songwriting combined with guitar and Perry's guitar and Tyler's singing, they were a great rock and roll band, the guys from Beantown, right? I don't think they changed anything. They're always kind of a North American version of the Stones or something. But Tyler was a great front man. And after the so-called Toxic Twins went out in the late 70s, early 80s, I don't think they ever really got it back. I think they're a nostalgia tour, right? That's where they're at. So that's me. That's what I've come up with.
Okay, so to add to your underrated, so staying in lead vocals, I put in Greg Lake of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Interesting.
Amazing voice, very powerful, very melodic, and let's face it, prog in North America, especially in the state, would not have been as big without Greg Lake.
That's really interesting. Yeah, you never think of Greg Lake, but yeah, who else sang in the band, right?
Yeah, exactly. Then I went on to lead guitar. So overrated, Richie Blackmore.
Overhated too.
Overhated too.
Yeah.
I mean, his strength is riff playing. He's an amazing riff player. But if you listen to the solos, the improvised solos, that's where you see some of his weakness. He's average at best.
Plus his personality, he just gets in the way of you appreciating him,
Exactly. And lead guitar also in the overrated category, Clapton.
Wow.
And I read this joke online and I just thought it was amazingly funny. What do Eric Clapton and coffee have in common?
I saw that. You sent it, yeah.
They both suck without cream.
That's good.
To end the lead guitar, underrated, Robbie Krieger.
Interesting.
And because let's face it, who remembers that the poor guy now? Because
Morrison overshadows everything.
Exactly.
But Robbie Krieger wrote most of the hits.
That's the thing. Like
the first song he ever wrote was called "Light My Fire." That's the first song you. Whoa.
6 minutes, not bad.
Yeah, I think more than that. Well, they filled it in with the druggy stuff, but great song.
Exactly, and it's extraordinarily complex compared to what was made at that time.
Good point.
And he actually is probably one of the people responsible for Gibson becoming that iconic
really
instrument. Also, Martin Barr from Jethro Tull.
Oh, interesting.
His playing is really sick. It's just that he gets completely overlooked because you have a flute player in front of you.
Yeah, I know. Ian Anderson dominates.
He's an interesting cat, that guy.
Oh, yeah. Anderson? Yeah, one of those guys I think is, as I said,
stuck in his 60s.
A little too smart for the job.
And my last underrated would be Jerry Garcia. And, okay, I'm not talking to Jerry Garcia completely stoned, aimless on stage, looking almost asleep in front of the mic. I'm talking about the guy who was just plugged in and could play like he was on fire. Like I'd say in the mid '60s, before the drugs really started uh, taking their
Well, that's a
toll.
really interesting, one of the most interesting entries we've had. Jerry Garcia, yeah. It's hard to make what to make of the Grateful Dead.
Exactly, but I think he's more interesting when he's on his side projects. Like
Yeah,
there's a
maybe.
lot of stuff now that's coming out, like that he did,
yeah.
more bluesy, more down scale kind of stuff. And I'm starting to hear something.
What are you hearing?
Well, it's time. I think I hear some like cocktail music.
Like,
there.
Oh, no.
Oh, hello.
And now it's time for Ian's Knock, a little segment we like to call the Affairs with Rock Show, where Ian himself will rant and rave about books, reviews, musicians, artists, people, or whatever just does not go his way that day. Who knows? You might be on Ian's Knock, 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 knock.
Folks, I thought the following article had some hot spots and a few potholes. I did some editing to bring it into focus. It's a good discussion piece, and it's from spindiddy.com, and it's called "Why Did Rock Music Decline, and Can It Make a Comeback?" I mention this because during the course of these podcasts, we touch on some of this stuff, but this article's kind of neat in that it lays especially some demographics you never really think about in terms of Beatlemania and everything else and what came after that. So here we go. There was a time when rock was the dominant form of popular music. Interesting just saying that. The decline of rock began as early as the mid-60s, this person's. By the 70s, disco had taken over. However, rock remained a force until the late 90s. By the 2000s, pop rock was, for the most part, the only form of rock that was charting on the Billboard 100. Interesting, eh? Pop radio radically changed in 2013, and pop rock made this comeback. Electronic bands like Imagine Dragons and pop funk Fall Out Boy enjoyed success on both alt and pop radio. Okay, with pop rock embracing more diverse forms of music, including pop rock and electro rock, is there a chance for guitar-driven rock, which we talk about mostly here, similar to that was popular in the 60s and 70s, to make a comeback as well? Well, one of rock's problems seems to be demographic. This is where it gets interesting. Modern rock music is mainly being purchased by young white males. That's true. Girls and women 40 and under mainly purchase pop music. Interesting. Despite the success of some latter-day female rockers like 10,000 Maniacs, Alanis Morissette, modern rock still seems to have a problem attracting female buyers. In 2006, the website smartgirl.com surveyed girls around the world on their music taste. While the survey didn't provide percentages, rock only appeared in the other category. And that was just a tiny slice of the pie chart. Now, it's possible that some rock fans chose alt, which covers several genres, but this was still less than half the size of the pop category. The early fan bases of people like Elvis Presley and the Beatles were all female. In fact, if you look at Elvis Presley, especially the Beatlemania, for every one guy in the audience, there's about 1,000 young women. They're all female. However, the rock stars themselves are obviously male. Female rockers like Janis Joplin had to become one of the boys to succeed. Joan Jett also has this masculine leather image, right? So like rap music today, rock was often criticized for having misogynistic lyrics. No kidding. And was considered an aggressive expression of male sexuality. Despite this, women made up a large portion of the fan bases of rock bands. Yeah. The rise of strong women in rock like Madonna, I wouldn't say Madonna's in rock, but may have made it more appealing to girls and women as both listeners and artists. Perhaps young women could identify more with independent women than oversexed rock stars. The modern rock I hear on alt radio is still heavily male and seemingly mostly white. Rock music probably became too white and too male to remain hugely popular. Well, that's that article, and I paraphrased it to give them credit, but it makes sense to me in what it says, in the demographics. and especially the difference between rock and pop, and what women buy, and what men buy, and who goes to the concerts. C'est tout.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So, Kennedy,
Yes, my
underhyped.
underhyped.
Underappreciated.
Underappreciated is what I wrote. I'm going to start off with this one here. I find George Harrison underappreciated. And Ian's going to say, nah, you're crazy.
No, I think it's a sad comment.
It's a whisper.
But well, why do you find he's under? He's one of the most famous bloody
He's in the
musicians.
yeah, but no, but look at it this way. The reason why I say he's underappreciated, and I think Paul McCartney had said it best, is that they didn't realize the writing talents that he actually had, and they didn't give him enough leeway until towards the end. And towards the end, whenever then John decided to leave, and I still stand by this, that the Beatles should have still continued. They could have still went with Ringo and Paul and George. They could have still went on. Billy Preston would have filled in for some piano stuff, so on and so forth. And basically, All Things Must Pass and Band on the Run would have been 2 extra Beatles albums.
Maybe, yeah.
I still think George Harrison had some strong writing skills, and I just think he was just underappreciative because he's basically, you're overshadowed by the 2 biggest gurus of rock music of all time, Lennon and McCartney. You're not going to get any bigger than those 2 right now.
I think, yeah, you're right, because it's pretty hard to stand up against those guys. But when you just look what he did with the Beatles, and you can argue he wasn't allowed, I guess so.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. I'm looking at like everything since All Things Must Pass, and I don't see a strong writer, but okay.
Yeah. The second band, or second art band, whatever, I put Nickelback on there. And this is just to appease to those Rush heads to tell you, say, hey, all time right now, Rush sold $40 million. They did what, 40 million albums, something like that? Nickelback has got you beat by 10 million. Okay? So whether those Rush heads want to knock Nickelback, let's put it this way. Nickelback went over to the States, no problem. They recorded at the London Bridge studio in Seattle, which is the home of grunge. That's pretty good if you ask me. They sell out everywhere they go. Their pyrotechnics, their show that they put on is fantastic in my view. Like I said, again, these guys know what they're doing, but people in Canada tend to knock them down. I put the Rolling Stones on here for the simple fact is that, in my view, I like the fact that they fired Brian Jones. When I see the videos with him, I just think he looked like a tool. And you told me, Ian, he was into the drugs towards the end.
He couldn't function.
Yeah, and that's great. You gave the band the name, but whatever. Who cares? You're gone. And at the end of the day, they still carried on and they soldiered on. And they've kept on writing. They probably should have stopped after Voodoo Lounge, or maybe even before that. Maybe Emotional Rescue as an album.
Even before that.
But they, again, it's a blues-based band that kind of went into classic rock. Foo Fighters, I find, David Grohl being the mastermind behind it and proving to everybody that, hey, I'm not just part of the rhythm half of Nirvana. I'm now me. I could do this. I could write songs, I could play guitar, I could play bass, I could play drums, I could play the piano, I could even freaking play the cowbell if I feel like it, all right?
Cowbell. Cowbell.
Led Zeppelin, I find that given the time, even though the people are saying, well, Jimmy Page stole this or stole that, listen. At the time, 68 they started, 1980, John Bonham passed away. They did 12 years. You're on the road. You got to write something on the fly. Come on. That's pretty impressive. Okay? That's just my opinion.
Sure.
AC/DC for the simple fact of longevity. No band right now that I could think of loses their main guy and then soldiers on with another guy for another 40 freaking years.
Well, didn't you say a little while ago 12 of their drummers imploded?
Yeah, they had 12. Yeah, 12 drummers all time.
Like Spinal Tap, and they just blew out of their seats.
John Mellencamp, I think, is underappreciated.
Oh, God.
But Ian says, no, what are you talking about? No, I think he's underappreciated. The songwriting, the time that he came in, the change of the music. Obviously, a big part of his success, and I'm biased, is because of Kenny Aronoff, one of the greatest drummers of all time. And we'll leave it at that. Bon Jovi, again, underappreciated in my view, just because of what he's established and still able to continue. He still sells out. You know, he still keeps his voice. He still, soldiers on. And now he's a businessman, like you said, Ian. So I think, Andy Kim, underappreciated for all the songwriting he did. No, I'm serious. You guys are laughing, but come on. He was not even 18 and he got discovered in New York to go perform and sing. Oh, yeah? He started writing songs at an early age, so it's got to be something. I find the Van Halen era of Roth is underappreciative. A lot of people are focusing too much of 85 to 96 with Sammy Hagar, just because they said, well, he had a more heavier rock voice and he was, also known before. Yeah, that's great. He was a red rocker, but at the end of the day, I still think the early Van Halen stuff is the better stuff. Malcolm Young, very underappreciative of AC/DC, even though he was the backbone of AC/DC, overshadowed by his baby brother. Fine, the gimmick. Angus Young is a fantastic guitarist, don't get me wrong, but I think people tend to forget Malcolm. He did a lot of good stuff. In the drumming world, I like to defend Tommy Lee. I think a lot of people out there crap on Tommy Lee, and I think he's underappreciative. I'm impressed that you could still hold a beat and chug a 40 ounce of Jack Daniels. I like the fact that you could drum on a roller coaster upside down and still hold the beat.
And be married to Pam Anderson.
Yeah, and I'm jealous of the women that you dated, so I'm not going to lie. I think the Beastie Boys were underappreciative from the simple fact that they started off as the young Aborigines, where they went from punk to metal to rap to hip-hop alternative, so they kind of went with what the wave would be. Actually, I think they even went with some new wave, you know what I mean? They did a lot of stuff. Lars Ulrich from Metallica, again, on the drumming aspect. I find people tend to make jokes about Lars Ulrich and saying he's, a terrible drummer, can't hold a beat, and that's BS. I think Lars Ulrich is one of the greatest drummers out there. They had asked Lars, who do you think the best drummer is of all time? Is it between John Bonham or Neil Peart? Thank God he said John Bonham, so I could still like him, and we'll call it that. And then the last one that I find is underappreciative, Ian, I agree with you. It has to be Burton Cummings of the Guess Who.
I think so.
His songwriting is by far top notch.
Yeah, he went through a 10-year bang.
His voice is phenomenal. It is a good rock voice, and he in Canadian music should be, I think, a little bit more respected. I think a lot of people should respect more people like Burton Cummings of the songwriting. Stay away from guys like Rush and the Hip because no one really cares. Let's go with Burton Cummings and what he did with the Guess Who. And I just wish.
Yeah, I agree.
And I just wish that he would have went with BTO. Also would have been kind of cool. That's just my.
But that would have been fun. Although when he tours with Bachman now, they go, baby you. They do some old stuff too.
For me, in the drums section, the overrated, I'll put Neil Peart as number one.
Woohoo!
And I'm not saying that he's a bad player, not at all. Neil, Lee, and Lifson are actually technically extraordinarily good. The problem is, especially with Peart, is that it's essentially always the same thing. If you heard one Rush solo, you've heard pretty much all of them, and he does these solo with 16 notes on bizarre drums, and so basically there's 3 or 4 decades of Rush,
really.
and they do tend to all meld into one. So not saying he's not a good drummer, I'm just saying he's overrated. The other overrated is Pete Best.
Really?
Yeah. Because right now, if you look on the internet, a lot of people are saying, oh, no, he was fired because he was good looking and the others were jealous. But actually, I've read that Martin listened to the demo tapes that he did at Decca, and apparently they're now available on the net if you look deep enough, and he sucked. Like, he couldn't really hold a beat. He was rather full of himself. So
I guess the story too, though, that Martin didn't let Ringo play. There are 2 versions of "Love Me Do." One has a session drummer, and the other is Ringo. Yeah. He didn't think Ringo could really hold a beat, so it's just.
Charlie Watts did a few sessions for them.
Did he really?
Charlie Watts apparently did some session, and Charlie Watts, Johnny Hutchison, 2 drummers. No, it's true. Johnny Hutchison
and Lars Ulrich.
Well, I wish Lars would be like 80 years old right now.
And unfortunately, my friend Kennedy will probably take out the Iron Maiden because I'll say this, but overrated Tommy Lee, hands down. Drums on a roller coaster. I mean, if you're a really good drummer, you don't need the gimmick. And let's face it, somebody like Buddy Rich, who was a show-off,
Yeah,
would look at this and say, "What's this crap?" And
yeah, I mean the jazz drummers are different.
Like, hold on a second here. Like, Tommy Lee. Here we're going to drumming now, and I'll tell you exactly what this comment was said. This guy, and he was smart to do this. He put it in a Canadian classic rock group. He had said John Bonham played with precision, power, and passion. Okay, he hit the notes. He did it right.
Yeah.
Neil Peart, or Peart, whatever you want to pronounce it, was a show off.
Yeah.
So Tommy Lee, you could consider a show off, saying, okay, you don't need to do it on a roller coaster, yada, yada, yada. Okay, great, but he still kept a simple 5-piece set. This guy, Neil Peart, had, 36 drums, for crying out loud.
Keyboard he hit.
Yeah, so that's a show off.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that's fine. No, it's okay. Tommy Lee is Tommy Lee. I just love Tommy Lee.
Yeah.
But that's cool, man. I'm
No,
all
of
right with
course.
that. I'll stab you later.
Exactly. And for underrated, I have two. The first one is Bill Bruford, who's the anti-Perth. And he was in Yes and King Crimson. And I think the reason why I'm saying this is you'll actually never notice Bill Bruford because he'll change his style systematically, not only for every group he's playing, but every song he's playing. Every track is different. And usually the decisions he makes are right on. And the other one is Roger Taylor from Queen.
He is underrated.
Because he has a booming sound. And even when he does some basic stuff, it's right on the money. And he has great taste. And he's able to actually go out of his way to help with the vocal sound even of Queen's every once in a while. So that being said, I'm hearing this really weird sound like chains and like a grinding engine.
And now, Yes or No with Ferris Kennedy, the segment where the sick, drug-addled mind of Mr. Kennedy forcibly asks Dr. Clark and medicated Wheeler yes or no questions about classic rock, and you get to hear the sick, drug-addled answers.
Makes my knees freeze.
Van Halen the band set a Guinness World Record for headlining a festival in San Bernardino, California called Heavy Metal, with hitting the event with a price tag of $1.5 million.
I'm going to say yes because that sounds kind of like a Van
Yeah,
Halen
that's
thing to
no
do.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a no one.
Keith Richards collaborated with Mick Jagger and played guitar for the top 10 hit The Last Time. Why are you looking at him?
I'm not going to give it away.
Saying no?
Dr. Clark, what do you think?
Yeah, there was a Stones hit, the first
Yeah.
big hit.
Oh, okay.
Bon Scott's real name is Gregory Scott Bonaparte.
That's a cool name if it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it is so cool. So I'm going to say yes, just for the fun of it.
Just for the fun. Yeah, no, the answer is actually Ronald Belford Scott.
I get that name better.
So on Nirvana's first album, Bleach, which cost $606 US.
That's 66 cents.
Yeah, $606 US. It was Jason Everman, the rhythm guitarist, that actually paid for that album.
Oh, interesting question.
Yes.
It was. He was the only one that actually had money, and
Yeah.
he's an ex rover for the army. Like he's an ex.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
That's happened to
that's why he
him.
left, because he got called.
Yeah,
He
oh,
went.
that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great.
Foo Fighters' first performances were in Portland, Oregon.
Sounds like the right region, but I want to say no because I'm guessing Seattle.
No, it is Portland.
It's Portland. Okay.
Jeremy Spencer left Fleetwood Mac to work at McDonald's.
I want to say yes.
Yeah, no, actually, it was to join a cult. Clark,
Oh,
you remember
damn.
that one?
Yeah, that's
Isn't McDonald's though a cult when you work
Oh,
there?
that's interesting. Good comeback.
And then the last one for you, sir, before I drill the good doctor. The Beatles were against drugs.
Are we talking all the way through or at the beginning?
It just says the Beatles were against drugs.
I was gonna say no because just of the amount of
That's it.
alcohol they drank at the
That's
beginning, and
a
then
trick question. They might have said one thing, then the other.
So yes, the answer, you are correct. It is false. They weren't against drugs. They actually loved them, probably. Dr. Clark.
Yes, how may I help you?
Eric Clark. Eric Clark. Eric Clapton has
I've
been
heard of
part
him.
of 9 bands.
Oh, 9 bands. I can't think of 9, so I'm going to say 9 bands because these rinky-tinky bands in the beginning. So I can think of 5, but I'm going to say no.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's yes.
Yeah, I know you could kind of the way you were
It's a
saying
trick.
that. Name them.
I don't know.
Okay.
The Yardbirds is one of them. Cream.
keep going.
The Dominoes.
You got 3.
That's all I got.
Yeah, so I can go 5, but I can't go.
Clapton into Clapton.
Yeah, I'm going to say Derek and the Dominoes, but 9. He's going to be like Fred and his Playboys from 1962. Oh, John Mayall. Okay, you might get up to 9. I don't know.
Surfing was the Beach Boys' first single, which gained them regional popularity.
Yeah, it's true.
Regional.
Surfing. Was it?
Just surfing. Surfing. Not Surfing USA. Just
Not Surfing Safari.
No.
Just surfing. Okay, I'll say yeah.
Yeah. It was Greg Rowley who introduced Led Zeppelin to Atlantic Records.
Oh wow, I don't know about that. I don't know. I'm gonna say no.
You're correct. It is no. It was someone that you actually respected as a female artist by the name of Dusty Springfield.
That's wild. Yes, I know that. Yeah, that's wild, isn't it? Dusty Springfield.
Yeah. The Led Zeppelin hit Stairway to Heaven was played live for the very first time in Belfast, Ireland.
Oh wow, this is trivia. I'm gonna say that's so bizarre that it's true.
It is. Here's something that's gonna make you think.
All right.
The album Let It Bleed was recorded around the time Brian Jones was fired from the band. Did Brian Jones or Mick Taylor play on it?
Interesting. It's a really interesting. I'm thinking Let It Bleed has Mick Taylor on it, and I don't know if Brian Jones is on a few tracks either. It's possible he is. He died in 69, right? Yeah. So it's possible he's on it too. But I know Mick Taylor's on there. So it could be both of them. It's like a trick question.
You're correct.
All right.
Both. Yeah, it is both of them. Yeah, Let It Bleed. Let's sing ye.
That's a great album, by the way,
I
listeners.
It's a fantastic
It's a fantastic album.
Kenny Jones of the Faces is the drummer on the Rolling Stones classic "It's Only Rock and Roll, But I Like It."
Yes, I do.
And it's not Charlie Watts. So is that yes?
I'm gonna say, why wouldn't Charlie be there? That Kenny Jones. I'm gonna say I don't know it. No, I'm gonna say no.
You're wrong.
No.
It was Kenny Jones.
No.
It was 50-50.
I'm looking it up. Kenny Jones.
I have it in the book. And Earl Bailey on classic vinyl said it. So, and the last question is: do you agree with the statement that John Bonham played with power and precision, and Neil Peart was a show-off?
Okay, this is called leading the witness. You know I agree with that.
Yes.
Well, this guy always brings up something interesting. Like Kenny Jones is on the Stones. Where was Charlie? Where was the guy?
Where's Waldo, man?
Well, it was like that big story of was it Let It Be that they said that they started late because Ringo was in the bathroom or something.
Yeah, that's true. I know. Or else, what is it? McCartney on the song, Battle of John and Yoko. It was just Paul and John. So it's Paul on bass, drums, and John on rhythm, lead, and singing. Like, well, the other guys, I'll just go.
I heard it was Yoko. She was actually doing everything.
You would have heard that.
So that's all I have for my
Well, I'm out of.
Okay.
I don't have any. The only thing there is a song, and it's been called the greatest rock song ever written. Peter Frampton, I heard an interview with your buddy Stern, said it's the greatest song ever written. And you don't hear much about it, and that's Procol Harum's Whiter Shade of Pale.
Oh, that's a good song.
It's a great song, but you don't hear. It was so influential. John Lennon said, "Without that, there'd be no Strawberry Fields." Yeah, it's a Bach.
It's on the Big Chill soundtrack.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
hit quite a few good
It's a great song.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just think it's underappreciated. I think it's a song that changed popular music, and you just don't hear much about it anymore.
That's true.
But it's really short, by the way. It's like 2 minutes, and the sound is a little shaky.
I like the organ.
Oh yeah, it just comes in out of nowhere. was like funereal or something.
It's a good song.
It's
There's
a great
lot
song.
Of, you know what, and we will touch on
Gary Booker.
a future show where we're going to do some underrated albums.
Oh, I'm into
Yeah.
that. Sure.
Vinyl, not downloads, not vinyl.
No
Although I have to
streaming.
say, Whiter Shade of Pale is one of those songs, depending on the cut that you're listening to, if it's CD, if it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
first press,
I know, isn't it
sounds
weird?
completely bizarre.
It's
different.
really weird. You're absolutely right. You have it on the Big Chill. I've heard terrible mixes of that song, and is this the same thing? You can't hear Brooker's voice or anything, but it's one of those songs I just don't hear much about anymore. And yeah, since the Big Chill came out, when was that? 80 something. It was, and that changed a lot.
That movie sucked, by the way. But I also want to say another song that's underrated, "Nights in White Satin" by the Moody Blues.
That changed. That changed again. That was a really strange song, isn't it? When you listen to the lyrics, never letters I've written, never meaning to send. What?
But a good soundtrack, I think, for our listeners, if you are interested, I think Pirate Radio. That
Yeah.
movie,
Oh, yeah.
That has probably the best mix of songs.
Yeah, it's a good range.
It is.
Yeah.
It's got everything, and I don't know if that was true, Ian. That at the time England didn't want rock. To
Oh, no, that's true.
Yeah, it is.
Well, BBC government owned, so pirate radio, like Radio Carolina, all that stuff, they went out just far enough out from the coast.
That was smart.
It was.
Well, it's also the beauty of being an island.
I know you couldn't do it here, but
Well, you could if you're in Newfoundland.
or in the middle of Lake Ontario.
Although I don't think that would fall into international waters.
Oh, I know.
Oh, wait, Saint-Pierre-Miquelon there, down that area?
Yeah, that's
that'd
true.
be
Yeah,
great. You're
that
right.
would be actually here in Canada. It would create an international incident.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
And the French, of course, would defend it. It'd be
But
great.
it's such a good soundtrack. It's got
Yeah.
like, you know, from the my baby, wrote me a letter. You know, they got the box tops on there. They got the turtles.
I know.
I think they even have like Cat Stevens, the father and son song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
One says you are. Yeah. That's
You
a
know,
great
so
song.
they got some good stuff. So, but I hear more noises. It sounds like someone's nipples are being pinched.
Really, because I'm hearing bass, overrated bass. I just have this one last category to go through.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
So the most overrated bass player of all time,
Kitty Lee.
Sting.
No, come on, poor Sting. Gordon,
Oh.
Matthew, Thomas, Summer.
Former school
He's a
teacher.
decent bass player at best.
He's
He
alright.
was lucky to be with
Yeah.
the police.
He's a little precious about his bass playing. I know. He
Exactly.
uses a fretless bass.
He's friends with Ian.
He's a cool front man. He's a solid bass player. But let's face it, if it weren't for the police, would
Yeah.
we really
Would you know him?
You know what's
sing the
funny?
praises of Sting?
Do we even know who the other name of the guy is? It's Stuart Copeland, Sting, and who's the other guy?
Oh, which is I know it. If it look, you got me on the spot.
Is
here.
it Andy something? Andy?
Andy. Oh
Not Andy
God!
Gibb.
It's Andy Dick. No, it's Andy. What's his name? Oh, come on. That's pitiful.
Andy Ardy? No.
You know what? You Wheels, you talk.
Of course.
I will look.
Yeah,
And
sorry,
the other
folks, this
most
is a-
overrated player of all, bass player of all time, Gene
Yeah.
Simmons, without a doubt.
Well, he's not really a musician.
No,
So
exactly.
leave him alone. He just showed up with a. Bass.
He's a bass player basically playing on one note, and people are cheering.
Yeah, I know. The poor guy.
He's very good at the glam part. He's very good at the selling out part. But let's face it, Detroit Rock City is probably the only song where he had any hint of...
Like even that.
And
yeah.
even that.
And let's apologize to Andy Summers of the Police.
okay.
Andy, you were a big integral part of the band. Stuart Copeland alongside with Sting. So our sincere apologies to Andy Summers. If you're listening, I hope you are. But, you know.
Sorry about that, Andy.
Yeah, sorry about that,
he's
Andy.
a good guitar player.
Oh, hello.
The music at night, it sounds bright on Wheeler's turntable. He shines a light, he keeps his vinyl in sight, and gives you his magnificent review. Now here's a clue we have for you. It's time for Wheeler's Vinyl Review.
I'm going to talk about what is probably the perfect box set coming out in 2021.
Yeah.
And Joni Mitchell's The Reprise albums.
I've heard of this.
Oh,
yeah.
good Lord. Jesus.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it's not for everyone, of course.
Joni Anderson, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Good for you, Joan Anderson.
Here, it depends on what kind of a buyer you are. So if you go for, of course, we're going to talk more about the vinyl, but there's also the CD version that came out, and that one has a lot more of the archive stuff, including the Jimi Hendrix live version of the Dawn I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Dawn Treader.
I don't know. What are you reading, sir? Dawn Treater.
Dawn Treater, which he actually recorded on his own little machine when he was in Ottawa.
I was going to say,
'68.
I know what he's doing. I know, this is a segue here, but yeah, Hendrix used to drag around this god-awful Blaupunkt or something, reel to reel, and he recorded a show in Ottawa, and Joni Mitchell, is she on that tape, or is it?
She's in the coffee house, but I think it's one of her songs that he's doing.
Yeah, it's really bizarre that it even exists. This
Did
tape.
they date?
No,
I don't think so.
no, she dated Crosby.
In
If you
fact,
dated Sidney Crosby, the hockey player, I'd be okay with that. But David Crosby,
he in quotes, he discovered her. He didn't really.
No,
he
God,
brought
no.
her up from.
he's not even that good looking, man. I'm sorry. Just-
Yeah, I know, but it's just one of those things, man. He was a '60s guy.
Would you prefer him or Ronnie Hawkins?
Well, if I was Beverly D'Angelo,
Yeah, that's that bothers you, eh?
yeah, that bothers anybody except Beverly D'Angelo.
So in this box set, you have Ladies of the Canyon. You've got
Great
Blue.
Oh wow!
You've got basically you got the best albums.
Blue, I know that song.
Do you?
Yeah,
That's a great album.
I think I heard it.
Yeah, Ladies of the Canyon has hits on it. She was, we should have spoken about her underrated. Joni Mitchell is just one of these consummate artists, and yeah, she could sing, she could dance. I'm kidding, she couldn't, but she could sing. She could write great songs, great lyrics, very diverse, doing all that Mingus stuff, Charles Mingus stuff. Yeah, really good.
So basically, if you don't have any Joni Mitchell, this is the box set to buy. First of all, the sound is amazing.
I don't have any Joni Mitchell. I guarantee you, I do not have any Joni Mitchell.
I don't think you will any time
And if you've ever
soon.
heard these names, such as Thin Angel, Chelsea Morning, Both Sides Now, the song about a midway, like I said, Blue, Ladies of the Canyon, Laurel Canyon, the Big Yellow Taxi, they're all in that box set. So
Wow, that's pretty good.
for a relatively reasonable fee, depending on where you buy your records, and depending at what point, because it depends if this becomes a big hit. Of course, the prices are going to rise.
Well, that's the way it works, is it?
Exactly.
Demand, yeah.
I can assure you, it won't become a big hit. I'm serious.
I don't know.
If you're gonna buy vinyl, they'll go to Crosstown Traffic. Okay, they're online also. They'll ship anywhere.
So if you're getting into Joni Mitchell, if you're interested about the folky side of the 60s, the Reprise albums, which is basically 1968 to 1971, I think will be the perfect box set for
I
you
agree.
to...
I think that's the way of putting it, the folk side of the 60s.
Folk side of 60s. So if you're interested in the punk side of the 70s, what should we listen to?
not Joni Mitchell.
Sex
Yeah, not
Pistols.
Leonard Cohen.
The Clash. Social Distortion.
Yeah, really, they're pretty punky.
So yeah, that is all.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, that was a good show.
Wonderful.
I'm signing off as Kennedy.
I'll sign off as Wheeler. No, I'll sign off as Ian Clark.
I'm signing off. No, Wheeler.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.